It seems that some of you have already joined. Okay, so I will proceed with this class, but remember to follow this class very carefully. Okay, because these things won't be repeated again, and this lecture will be available in our YouTube channel for a later stage. But for the moment, I am starting with the class on C programming from scratch. We will start with it. So this is the beginning of our class. I don't know many of you, but on demand from the group, it has been told to me that I do the C programming class from the beginning, and that's why I have decided to cover this. Now let's start. So what is a program? I think that many of you have idea about what is a program, but still I would like to repeat that what is a program. You know that we have to provide instructions to the computer, right? So we have to provide instructions to the computer. Now whatever instructions we will be providing to the computer through any input device, okay, by means of certain language, that will be a program. So whatever instructions we provide to the computer, whatever instructions are provided to a computer through some input device will be called as a program. In other words, we can say that program is a means of communicating with the hardware of the computer. That means we want the computer to do certain tasks, and by means of this program we will communicate with the computer. Okay. Now suppose all of us are present here and English is the common language, but we have our own mother tongue. We have our own mother tongue. Now if we want to communicate with a person without English, then we must communicate with that person in their particular mother tongue, is not it? So that way, if you want to communicate with the computer, we have to speak in terms of the language of a computer so that the computer can understand, and the program is such a language by which we can communicate with the computer. Now why it is necessary to communicate with the computer? That is the next thing. Why is it necessary to communicate with the computer? Now to understand this, we have to go into the architecture of a computer, that why it is at all necessary. So let me draw one diagram for you. Suppose let's consider that we will be providing certain input to the computer. So necessarily this should be our input device. So through input we will be communicating with the computer. That particular input will be sent to the computer memory. That particular input will be sent to the computer memory. We will relate this with a program. So this thing is very important, because unless and until we understand that block diagram or the architecture of a computer, we cannot understand programming at the basic level. So this is computer's memory or the primary memory. This is our primary memory. Okay. Now whatever data is sent to the computer is first stored in the memory, and then it is sent to the central processing unit for processing. So let's draw a central processing unit. This is a central processing unit, and from your basic knowledge you know that the central processing unit is having three things. The first thing will be a control unit. We will relate our programming concept with this diagram. So please be patient and see how I will be relating my first C program with the architecture or the block diagram of a basic digital computer. This thing is very important if you want to learn programming at the beginner level. We are drawing the central processing unit or the microprocessor. So this should be our control unit. This should be our control unit. This should be our arithmetic logic unit. Let me make it big. This will be arithmetic logic unit, and this particular thing will be called as the CPU register. Is it visible? So this will be our register. Please be patient, it will be appearing. I think now it is fine. It should be fine. The block diagram is visible to you. So I have successfully drawn the block diagram. This is my output. This is my register. So what I am getting? I am getting that whatever input I provide to the computer, that is first coming into the primary memory. From the primary memory, it is coming into the central processing unit. It is coming into the central processing unit. As you can say, this is step number 1. This is step number 2. This is step number 3. Okay, that means input I am providing to the computer, that is coming into the primary memory. That is coming into the primary memory, and then through the memory read operation, this is the memory read operation, whichever is explained in 3, that is the memory read operation. Through memory read operation, the CPU is reading from the memory and it is coming into the microprocessor or the CPU. Okay, and all these signals are generated by whom? The control unit. I will summarize this, don't worry, I will summarize this by the side of this board. Okay, so we are understanding that we are providing input to the memory, we are input to the memory and it is stored in the primary memory, and after the memory read operation generated by the control unit, that signal is necessarily generated by control unit, whatever is stored in primary memory is coming into the central processing unit, and as the central processing unit is reading the data from the input device, they are stored in the CPU registers. So this thing is the CPU register, this is the CPU register, this particular thing is the CPU register. Okay, and arithmetic logic unit will decode that what operation is to be performed within the data, what operation is to be performed within the data, and based on that the arithmetic logic unit performs the operation and sends the data back to the primary memory. Okay, so this is step number 4, this is step number 4, this one is step number 5, this one is step number 5, and finally it is coming to primary memory, and from primary memory we are getting it, we can see the result in the output device. Okay, so what are the steps? Let us write it down. Step 1, we provide the input through the input device. Step 2, the data which includes both the operator and the operands are stored in primary memory at particular address. This is step number 2. Then what happens in step number 3? The control unit of CPU sends signal what signal? That will be memory read and reads data from primary memory, necessarily the RAM. Step 4, the data okay, everything fine now? So we are here, the data is transferred into CPU register, that is step number 4, and in step number 5 what happens? ALU performs the operation and sends the data to primary memory, and what is that? That is a memory write. And what happens in step number 6? What happens in step 6? We get the desired output through the output device. We get the desired output through the output device. Okay. So these are the steps. What happens in step 1? What happens in step 1? We provide the input through the input device. In step 2, the data, operators and the operands are stored in primary memory at particular address. What happens in step 3? The control unit of CPU sends signal, that is a memory read, okay, that is a memory read, and reads data from primary memory. What happens in step 4? The data is transferred into the CPU register, that is here. What happens in step 5? Arithmetic logic unit performs the operation and sends the data to primary memory. Okay. Now this data is necessarily the result, because after ALU analyzes that what kind of operations is to be performed on the data so obtained from the primary memory, it is being processed at the arithmetic logic unit and the result is sent back to the primary memory. Okay. That is step 5, and that operation that is marked in 5, okay, that is known as the memory write operation. That is the memory write operation. And finally what happens in step number 6? We get the desired output through the output device. Now consider an example. Suppose I will be writing a program to find the sum of two numbers. Okay, I will be writing a program to find the sum of two numbers. So just relate this one with the steps and this diagram. Both are visible on the board. On the left side you can see that there is a diagram, and on the right side you can see that I have written all the steps, and above that you can see that I have defined what a program is. Now I will be giving my instructions to the program, and what is my instruction in this example? I want to add two numbers, namely A and B. Okay, suppose I want to add two numbers A and B, and those where the value of A is 3 and the value of B is 4. Now we provide the input through the input device. So naturally we will enter the values of A and B, let it be 3 and 4, and that is being provided through the input device. What happens? The data, operators and operands are stored in primary memory at particular addresses. So that means we can understand that 3 is stored in a particular address of primary memory, 4 is stored in another particular address location of primary memory, and the plus that is also stored somewhere in the primary memory. So this necessarily means that the data, operators and the operands are stored in primary memory at particular address. What happens in step 3? The control unit sends signal and reads data from primary memory. So what will control unit do? First it will fetch the first data from the primary memory, that is 3. It will fetch 3 from the primary memory and store in register. Again it will fetch 4 from the primary memory and put it in register, and again it will decode that what is the operation which needs to be performed. Okay, then it understands that the operation which we need to perform on 3 and 4 is plus. Okay, so that is also being fetched from the memory. Okay. What happens in step 5? ALU performs the operation. That means ALU actually performs the addition operation, that is 3 plus 4. Now the result is 7. It is already being calculated, but that 7, it must be again sent back to primary memory. In step 5, we have to do exactly that. Through the memory write operation, the result of the operation, that is addition of 3 and 4, that is sent back to the primary memory, and finally we have to output the result so that we can see that what is the sum of 3 and 4, and 7 will be displayed in the output. I think the whole thing is clear to you, that how this block diagram and the operations being performed relate with each other. Is it clear? Okay. Any questions you can tell me. I am following your chat carefully, so until this, if you have any problem, you can tell me, because now I will write the first C program and relate the C program with whatever is written on this whiteboard. We will relate our C program to it. We understood the architecture, we understood the steps. We will now understand how our first C program relates to this. Okay. So, I will try to write my program in this side only, so that the three of these things are present in the same place and you can relate them. Let me try to write the program in this whiteboard only. Note carefully the block diagram, the steps which have been written on the right side, and now we will be writing our first program. Okay. I will explain you each of these lines, don't worry. So, as per step number 1, we have to input 2 numbers. Okay. We have to input 2 numbers. First let me write it, then I will relate it with the thing which is showed in the board. Please be patient while I write this simple piece of code and relate it with whatever I have taught so far. Okay. Now this program is already written here. Okay, I will try to explain the steps of the program with this block diagram and the steps being written on the right side of the board. Okay, you can't watch the screen, Saurav? I think there there is no issue, you can see it properly. Just try to increase your screen resolutions, try to watch the video in a better bitrate. Okay, I think you will be able to understand that. Now see what we are doing. We are providing the input through the input device. Now that input, okay, should be taken from the user as per my example. So I am asking the user to enter two numbers. I am asking the users to enter two numbers. Now these two numbers are necessarily integers in my example. These two numbers are necessarily integers in my example. You know that we can enter any two numbers. We can enter a decimal point number, we can also enter integer numbers, okay, but in this particular case we are entering two integer numbers. Whenever we will be giving some input to the computer, we must make it sure that what kind of input, what type of data we are inputting to the computer. Why? Because based on the type of data we are inputting to the computer, the memory will be allocated. The memory will be allocated, because I already told you that whenever I input something to the computer, they must be stored into the primary memory. As per step 2, the data are stored in primary memory at particular address. So we must tell the computer, that what kind of data we are sending to it, because based on that memory will be allocated for those numbers. Here I have already mentioned that my A and B are integers, because if I don't mention that what are the types of A and B, what kind of data A and B is expected to hold, then the computer cannot allocate the memory. Now what are A and B? We will come into details when I go into that what are data types, what are variables, okay, but today I am not going into that details. Just for the time being, remember that A and B are kind of containers. They will be called as the variables. Variable is nothing but a kind of container which is holding data, okay, which is holding data. So A and B are variables. They will be storing the data, they will be storing the values, whatever input the user will be giving through step number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, through step number 5. That is, whenever the user enters two numbers, those two numbers must be stored in some containers, and those containers are the variables which are necessarily A and B. And A and B are of type integer. Why this is necessary? Because unless and until I define that what kind of data these variables will be storing, a computer cannot allocate memory for the same. It cannot allocate memory for the same. So necessarily I must mention, I am repeating this step again and again, I must mention that what kind of data these variables are expected to store. That is why I have written int AB. That means A and B are variables and int is integer. That means the containers, the variables A and B are expected to hold values which are of type integer. Why it is necessary? Because based on the type of the variable and the data they are expected to hold, the memory will be allocating space. The memory will be allocating space. So I think this step is very much clear why I need to declare the variables. Okay, here for the moment I require two variables to take the two numbers from the user. That is why I have written int A and B. In the next step, I am asking the user to enter two numbers. Now printf and scanf I will be explaining after some time, please hold on. Now here in this step what am I doing? I am writing scanf percentage d ampersand a. Scanf percentage d ampersand a. Just compare this particular step with step number 2. What is written here? The data are stored in primary memory at particular address. Is not it? At particular address. So the address of A, okay, is given by ampersand A. Now when I type scanf percentage d comma ampersand A, that means I am allocating a address for the value of A. I am allocating an address for the value of A. Okay. And why it is percentage d? It is percentage d because A is an integer. A is an integer. That is why I have written percentage d. So what happens to this scanf function? Using this scanf, we are storing the address of this variable into a particular memory location. So whatever numbers user will be inputting, they are stored at particular memory location, and that memory location will be ampersand A. Am I clear? Okay. Yes, in this class I am dealing with C programming from scratch. That means whoever are beginner in the programming field, okay, for them we are doing this class. The topic is C from scratch. That means person who don't have any idea, they are really beginners in programming, and we are helping them out. We are trying to deal with that topic. How the architecture of a computer relates with how the architecture of the computer relates with the program, okay, and how it relates with the block diagram. Thank you. Exactly. You have got your answer, so let me proceed. So scanf, I think it is very much clear to you. Again, similarly, we have to allocate memory for B. You have to allocate memory for B. That means the value of B must be stored at a particular memory location. Okay. As per step 2, look at the right side. As per step 2. So scanf percentage d ampersand B will allow me to allocate an address for the variable B, where the value of B entered by the user will be stored in the memory. Okay. So printf function, it is helping me to uniquely give me a particular string output into the screen so that user can interact with the program. It is the standard input output function. That is why I am writing the printf, so that the user can communicate. Okay. Scanf, we are allocating address to the variables which will be storing our data as the user inputs. So that is about int AB, printf enter two numbers, scanf percentage d ampersand A and scanf percentage d ampersand B. Okay. Now what happens in this step? Int sum equal to A plus B. What happens here? Now this step is internal. The control unit of CPU sends signal and reads data from primary memory. This is essential. This happens internally, otherwise this particular processing sum equal to A plus B cannot be performed. So step number 3 is internal. Step number 4 is also internal. We have to assume that 3 and 4 has happened when I type sum equal to A plus B. That means the transition between scanf percentage d ampersand A, scanf percentage d ampersand B and int sum equal to A plus B, there are different micro operations in between. Okay, there are different micro operations in between and they have been written here. Okay, so they are internal micro operations which have happened in between these steps. Now this step is performed within the CPU, that is sum equal to A plus B. Now what is this sum? Again we know that when we are adding two numbers, and they are of type integer, the result of that sum should also be an integer, because it is not possible that we add two integers and the result is some different kind of data type. That is not possible. When we add two integers, our result should also be an integer. That is why, and also that result must be stored in some another container. As I told you that user are entering two numbers, they must be stored in some container kind of, and those containers are variables. So similarly the result must also be stored in some other container, and that variable which will store the result is sum in this example. Okay, and why its type is int? Because the sum of two integers is necessarily integer. The output of sum of two integers is necessarily an integer. Okay, any questions? Can you relate the three things? And in the last step what I did, the sum is percentage d comma sum. I told you printf is the standard input output function. So we have to do step number 6. The result must be displayed through the output, through our terminal, through any kind of output device. So to do this, we are again using the standard IO function printf. The sum is percentage d comma c. Why percentage d? Because sum is also an integer. Why comma sum? Because I want to print the value of this variable sum. That is why I am writing printf the sum is percentage d comma sum. Okay, whatever I have written within the second bracket, okay, that I have tried to relate with the block diagram and these stages of micro operations being performed within the computer. So hopefully you are relating to the relating these three things, then your programming understanding should be easier. I will come to hash include, int main, all these things stuffs I will be discussing later. For the moment, whatever is written within int main, within second bracket, try to relate them with the block diagram and the steps between step 1 and step 6. Okay, some of you have understood, many of you joined late, so others don't get bored. Let me just explain what I did so far. Okay, please be patient because we are here to help each other, to help all of you. Many of you may have joined late, so I will just go through very quickly what I have done so far. I was discussing what a program is, that whatever instructions we provide to a computer through some input device, that will be called as a program, and we communicate with the computer, or we write programs in those languages which are understandable to the computer. Okay, there must be some common thing between the user, programmer and the computer, and so that we can understand them and the computer can also understand them. So we communicate through different programming languages with the computer. Okay, and next I drew this block diagram here. Okay, what we saw that we are providing input to the computer, and that input is present in the primary memory, then it is sent to the central processing unit. Okay, the control unit generates the memory read signal, the data is stored in the CPU register, ALU decodes it, performs the operation through the memory write signal, sends back to the primary memory, and ultimately the result is obtained at the output. So all these steps have been summarized here between step 1 and 6, and finally we have related this one with the C program, that how these things work. Okay, So now let's understand the first two lines. Let's try to understand the first two lines. Hash include stdio.h and int main. Okay. Now for the moment at the beginner level, since we have not covered that much in C programming in this class, remember that every program must have a main function. Okay. The main functions, it's declared in this way, and int main, that is the return type. That is the return type of this function. We will do this. You can also look into my lesson on functions, which is already present in this channel. Int main, that necessarily means that this main is a method, it is a function which is returning some integer. Why? Now you can see that if I add this line, return 0. Now this main method has terminated successfully, that is why it has returned 0. Now if there are some problems, then it will not be returning 0, it is returning an integer, and here 0 necessarily means that the program has terminated successfully. So that is why I have put here return 0. Remember, in many books you will find that there is void main and all, but it is not a good programming practice. Okay, with due respect to people who teach that way, or in many books you may also find. I can tell you that in independent platforms we should not write void main, we should write int main. Okay, void main has its own, in standalone applications we can use void main, but in normal cases we use the int main. Okay, that is a good programming practice. Int main and return 0, that means the program has terminated successfully. That is why I have written int main, and since int is an integer, our program must return one integer, this function must return one integer, and that is why I have written return 0, and return 0 necessarily means that my program is successfully terminated. Okay. So remember, you have to write main each and every cases. In whatever program you write in your life, there must be a main, there must be a main function, and program execution always begins at the main, and program execution always begins at the main. There should be no program where main method is not there. At beginner level you should understand this way. Program execution begins at main, and all program must have main. Okay. Now see that similar to this main, okay, this printf and scanf, we know that this is the standard input output function, this printf. Why we call this function? You can see that this printf, okay, that is enclosed in a first bracket, and there is a semicolon after printf, and also it is in quotes. Okay. So this printf is a function. What kind of function it is? It is a library function. Same with scanf. We have called these functions printf and scanf from our main function. We have called the printf and scanf function from our main function. Okay. Now function has its own rules, that you have to declare them, you have to define them, then you have to call them. But here we have done nothing. We have simply, we haven't declared it, we haven't defined it, but we have directly called them, this printf and scanf method, these two methods. I want to mean these two, the printf and this scanf. I have directly called them, I haven't defined them, I haven't declared them. Okay, this is possible because we have used hash include stdio.h, because hash is a preprocessor directory which is including stdio.h header file into my program, and the function definition and declaration for printf and scanf is already present in stdio.h header file. So since we have included stdio.h header file in our program, we can directly call printf and scanf methods. Am I clear? Am I clear why I can call the library functions directly from my main program? Because the prototype declaration of printf and the definition of printf and scanf are already present within the stdio.h header file, and my preprocessor directive hash is allowing me to include stdio.h header file into this program, and as such I can call printf and scanf function directly. I did not have to declare or define them within main. Okay, now I think I have explained the first C program and how it relates with the block diagram, and what are the different micro operations, how this architecture relates with the program, how this architecture eventually executes one instruction. Okay, so I think you can relate the two. If not, you can tell me. Any questions? Any questions you can ask. No questions? Okay, so let's try to write this program in some compiler and check that how it works. Okay, so let's hide this board. And open a compiler. Okay, I am using the Cygwin compiler. I am opening a Cygwin GCC compiler. Don't use Turbo C. Okay, it is outdated now. Try to use any kind of GCC compiler. So I will write a C program in this compiler, show you how to compile a C program. So let's write one first program .c. Okay, so it has opened my editor. Now I will write the program. First I have to write the program. Whatever I had written on the board, same thing will be written. Now you know that I need 3 variables because I need to store the result in some third variable called sum. So I will ask the user to enter 2 numbers, \n, it will create a new line, scanf, so the first number will be inputted here. Now I input the second number. What is happening? It is allocating memory for this. Now the processing step, and finally the result. Okay, so let's comment out each and every line. Includes preprocessor directive directs to include stdio.h header so that printf scanf can be called. Okay, int main program execution begins here. Int ab sum variables containers to store data. Getting me? Enter two numbers, user inputs, scanf allocates memory location for value in variables. Same for scanf %d %b sum equal to a plus b. Process and store in variable sum. Last step, output sum through terminal. Okay, so each line has been explained. If you have questions, you can tell me. Any questions? Okay. Hopefully you are understanding. So let's save this using Ctrl O and then exit the editor as Ctrl X, type an ls to check it is nano fast program.c. So we will compile this gcc first program.c -o first program. Okay, so what is the meaning of this? I am using the GCC compiler to compile my C file first program.c. How? By creating the object file first program. How the object file is created? Because I am passing -o as the parameter, GCC first program.c -o first program. That means it will create the object file first program for my source file first program.c. Getting me? GCC first program.c -o first program. You know that whenever a program is compiled, we get the binary executable file or the object file, and by passing the parameter as -o, we have created the object file, namely first program. So let's run it from the root. So the next step will be to run the program. So let's run it using /first program, right? So the binary executable created in the last step will be ran now using /first program. So enter two numbers. I will be entering two numbers. The result is 7. That means the user input two numbers and the output is 7. Again, just check the program, cat first program .c. So you can see everything is commented there. You can just check out that what is happening in each line. I have tried to clear your doubts that what is the meaning of each line here, why we are writing each line. Okay. Any questions? Hi Shubham, hope you are fine. Anyways, let's concentrate. So all the things I have tried to relate. The program, how it is being executed using a GCC compiler, then in the board, that how your block diagram relates with your program, what are the different steps. Okay. So I think it is clear to you. Any questions you can ask me, because I think for first day it is okay. If you get interest, then next day I will try to teach you better in more innovative manner. There were some technical glitches, I think, for 2-3 minutes. Please bear with it. Any questions on whatever I have taught so far, you can ask me. Any questions? I have started from 0 level, absolutely 0 level. What is a program? What is the block diagram of a computer? What happens step by step? How we write our first program? Then what are the each lines of a C program mean? You want me to do another program for you? Okay, I will do another program, okay, and wrap up this first lecture. Okay, so before I go, I will be doing another program for you, and then I will conclude the class, and next day we will move into the specific topics like data types, operators. Okay, but you can also see there are all these topics are already being taught. You can always visit this channel and check for those lectures. I have already created the playlists. Mainly this live session is for your questions. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Anyways, we will be getting in touch in group. You can tell me your expectations and how you want it to be done. Okay, as per my understanding, you are not acquainted with my style of teaching, and I am also not aware about your expectations. So we will communicate more and more in our group. Okay, and that group link will be present in this live chat also. That link will be provided to you. Okay, whoever, if somebody is watching from outside, he or she can also join. But these things, the main purpose of the live class is to answer your questions, your queries. Okay, because lectures are already there. Still, if you want me to do these classes, I will be doing, not an issue, not a problem. Okay. So next day we will go into specific topics. Today it was a general discussion, and before I leave today, I will show you another program. So let me write another program for you. So that was our first program. This is our second program. Similarly, we are using the nano editor here. Okay, nano second program.c will open our nano editor. We will be writing another program. Okay. Let's take up another easy program for you to understand. Let's write one program to find the average of three numbers. Very easy. So we have to take three variables a, b, c to input three numbers from user, and the fourth one where we can put our result, because we find the average of three numbers a, b and c and store the result in our variable, in our fourth variable, that is average. Naturally, recall the earlier program. We will ask the user to give us input, enter three numbers. We are asking the user so we have to store each of the variables into the memory. We have to give them a particular memory location. So that step is repeated. It is always a fair practice to write scanf in this manner. In some books you will find scanf %d, 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 %a, %b, %c. Okay, but at beginner level you should write in this way. Then it will be more clear to you that why I am writing this. Otherwise you may get confused that why so many percentage D's, %a, where to put comma, where not to. So these things may confuse you. So it's better you do this way. So we will find the average. All of us know how to find an average mathematically. We have three numbers, so we just divide it by 3. Okay, very easy. Now we will just print the value of average. Three given numbers, obviously, is %d, and what is the name of our variable? Average. Let's conclude our program. Okay, we have declared 4 variables a, b, c and average. A, b, c will hold the input values, average will hold the output value. That is why we are outputting using this particular variable average. We will be outputting it, and this is the processing step, which is very easy. We all know that average is equal to the number of each individual observations added together by total number of observations, that is the average. Okay, so it's done. Now Control O, Control X. So now we will be compiling this. GCC second program -O. We have to create the object file. We have to see, we have done some error. Let's go back there. stdio.h. Let's find it out. Seems okay to me. We are entering 3 numbers and finding their average. Let's go back and check what is the error we are getting. Okay, we didn't write second program.c. Our name of the file is second program.c, not second program, is not it? So it has compiled now. Now let's run the second program. 3 numbers we will be entering, and the average of 3 given number is 3. Why this? Because 5 plus 4 plus 2, okay, that is 11, and 11 by 3, that is rounded to, that is more than 3.5, is not it? That is why it is giving me the output as 3. This is important because our integer value will truncate the decimal points. Our integer value will truncate the decimal points. Our program was to find the average of 3 numbers, and average is a plus b plus c by 3. So next we have also declared average as integer. That is why whatever value we are getting after the decimal points, that value will be truncated. So you have also understood that not all values or not all results can be declared as integer. So what is the way out? To get exact result, we must accommodate average in such a way that it can hold decimal point numbers. Is not it? Because you have just saw that if I declare average as integer, then it is truncating the values. Because I entered 3 number as 2 plus 4 plus 5, okay. Now the average is 4 plus 2 plus 5, that is 11 by 3, okay, it is 3 point something. That point something is neglected. Why? Because I have declared average as an integer. So how can I modify this? Let's conclude by modifying this program a bit. So if we declare average as float, then it should solve our problem. Then it will not be truncating and since this is float, I should change this from %d to %f. Let's check. So our program has compiled. So deliberately we will be using the same values, then it will be easier to interpret. See, again it is typecasting. That is also not solving my problem. Can you see? Just relate these two results. In 2, 4, 5, the same inputs I have given, this case and this case. In this case, the average of 3 number is giving me 3, and in this case, the average of 3 number is giving me 3.000000. Can you see? Is it solving my problem? Now, if we play with the data, then we can be sure that what kind of data types. Why is this answer not coming? That is very important to know. Why is this answer not coming? There is something called typecasting, which is beyond the scope of this lecture. So, we have to find some other possibility that how this problem can be overcome. Okay? That means you can see that even if we change the program, our earlier program was something like this. All the variables were declared as integer. As such, we were getting a truncated value for this average. Because our average variable is expected to give me only integer results. Then we modified the program as this. As this. That means we have declared average as float. Still, it is not solving my problem. It is giving me the average of 3 number is 3.000000. Okay. So, at this level, what we can do, because we don't have any concept of typecasting. So, how we can proceed to solve this problem? Let's check if we are successful. Let's declare all these values at float and check if it solves our problem. So, there are no more integers. Let's check what output we are getting now. Let's compile this. Hopefully, there is no typing error. So, there is no typing error. So, enter 3 numbers. I will be entering. So, I think that this has solved our problem. But let's check it with the input which we gave earlier, that is 2, 4, 5. Okay, is it solving our problem now? Yes, it is solving our problem. Can you see that since we have no knowledge of typecasting at this point of time, how we can deal with this error which we were getting, and what were the modifications done at each step? So, at the latter half of the lecture, we understand the different data types. that you can easily understand that what kind of data the computer is expecting. As I told you that we must declare a variable along with its data type, because based on that declaration memory will be reserved and the computer is expecting only that kind of data. We didn't declare the variables properly and we were not getting the desired results also. Gradually we declared the variables step by step. Am I clear? And gradually we got our result. So what modifications we did? Just declared all the variables as float, because we know that the average they can be in decimal points. Then why should we declare them as integer? We should declare them in floating point variable only. We must declare them as floating point variables only. And this time around we declared them as floating point variables only. Earlier what we did? We didn't declare them in that manner, and naturally our output was not as expected. Any questions? I am happy that many of you are understanding, and that is given me immense pleasure, because my goal is to make you understand. But in group also I request you that please communicate, otherwise it becomes difficult. Whoever is doing the class from first did each and every minute of the lecture should easily understand. To learn programming we have to be patient. Many of you are coming and going in that fashion, you cannot learn programming. You have to be patient. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the class. Okay, again I am opening the board so that you can recap what we do, what we did. Okay, next class will be taken after discussion in the group. Okay, today overall the beginner level, that what a program is, how we write a program, I have covered this. But if I take next classes, then it will be on specific topics, right? And as I told you that all of the lectures are already there in our playlist named C Programming for Beginners. Okay, you can just go through them. What we can do is, if you go through them and still if you have problem, we can arrange a question answer session on C. There I can solve your problems, and we can try to solve different kinds of problems in programming related to C language. That can be more useful. And regarding theories, all the lectures whichever I provided, I recommend you to please go through them. In case of any problem, you ask me in group. Okay, and after you are done with that, we can always take up a question answer session where we will discuss problems, very common problems related to C programming, which normally comes in exam, which normally comes in GATE exams, in your academic exams or in NET exams. So those questions can be taken up in those sessions. Anyways, I hope it is clear to you. So that's it for today. I will take your leave now. See you in the group. Talk to you later. Okay. Good night. Bye.